All right, and we are live. How we doing, guys? Let's jump right into this. Um, Tonight should be fun because I think we're gonna approach a completely new idea from scratch. One of the kind of core environments of the show that I need to flesh out in quite a bit of detail. So we're gonna be jumping back and forth between a number of different kind of design techniques. Um, trying to figure out what this interior environment is going to look like. So to start off, let's actually start with some words and just kind of lay out what we need from this place and some requirements in terms of function that will help to drive some of the design. So, what is this place that we're talking about? Well, we are going to be looking at these kind of interior life support pods. Interior life support pods. And the idea is, and this is now kind of dive into a little bit more about what the story is about and kind of the world that this podcast lives in. And that is, what are these life support pods? So the idea is there are a bunch of people isolated in these pods that like they can't, a lot of people can't get out of them. And everything that a person needs to survive is contained within this small little pod. Kind of think like a really small apartment or a couple of compartments of the International Space Station. Like those types of visuals are kind of what we're starting to think about. So we can get a couple of things that we need out of this. So for a human to survive fully in like a place like this, they need to be able to have access to food and water. They need some type of place to sleep, sleeping quarters. They have to be able to bathe themselves, bathing, and kind of like general hygiene. And what else do they kind of need? Food, water, sleeping quarters, bathing, hygiene, general. There needs to be some type of bathroom. And then kind of the last two things that are a little more story specific is in every single one of these pods attached to it is the cryo chamber room, which is kind of the environment that you guys saw me working on a little bit last week. Or not last week, 2 weeks ago, the last session. So the cryo chamber room is adjacent. And then the other kind of story-based component is that there are these workstations, essentially computer setup in kind of the main part of the room that then has a big story point that centers on these workstations and why they're there and what the purpose of these pods are in general. Computer setup. So we're going to start thinking about this in a couple of different ways in terms of the design. We have kind of what we need from it functionally, right? And then we can think of it from kind of a top-down view, almost like architecture. Down, like an architect would draw out their blueprints for an interior. And then we can think about it in terms of the mood and the lighting. It's still buffering. Let me play a minute with the, see if I can fix something on these settings. Just trying to fix some of this buffering. Stream output. Maybe I can bump that up a little bit. Okay, so we can think about it kind of like the mood or the lighting, and that'll be more like a kind of free form painting of kind of figuring out what the colors are going to feel like, and then we can actually jump into 3D, which I'm sure will be very new to a lot of you guys. But then you can jump into 3D design, in which we'll actually jump into a 3D program, something like Maya is probably what we'll use. And from there we'll get a lot of things for free. Oh, it stopped buffering. Oh, that's cool. Let me know, Allison, if it starts buffering a little bit again, and I'll try to increase some of the settings to kind of fight that again. But thanks for letting me know. Make sure I keep on top of that. And what we're going to see in this kind of like design work is we're going to go back and forth between, we're going to start in 2D because 2D is going to be really fast. That's just going to be kind of sketching and painting in Photoshop. And that's where a lot of iteration is going to happen. That's where we're going to get a lot of very big, broad changes to things like the entire feel of the place. Then we get into 3D design, and we're feeling out more of the spatial awareness of the place. And we'll get a lot of things for free from the 3D design, mainly perspective. If you're one who studies art, you know that you have to draw everything in perspective, and perspective lines kind of converge to a single point, which is why if you're drawing a box, like you can draw them back to a vanishing point, and boom, now that box lives in a 3D space, right? And with 3D, we actually get that for free. So anything that makes our lives easier as a designer is really going to be king to help us out. Let me move some of these guys over just a bit so we have a little more space to play with. Boom, boom. All right. So I'm going to start in the top down, just thinking about kind of a floor plan, right? That's all we're really worried about. So we're going to probably go through multiple iterations of this. So I'm actually going to start a new canvas. I like to darken my canvas a little bit right at the beginning, just because there's no real reasoning for it other than it's easier on your eyes, staring at a bright monitor, like darkening that down. Okay, so we know we have a cryo room. So let's say this is the cryo bed where poor little Elon's gonna wake up. Pretty much right off the bat. And got to figure out the actual design of that. And then let's say there is, whoops. He is then in a room. I'll bring this over a little bit more. Transform selection. So you see, this is to get like a lot of really sharp and like clean lines. You're gonna see me here doing a lot of using a lot of masking, and here I'm just holding down Shift to give myself those clean lines. Transform selection again. Rotate him. Rotate that. And all I'm doing here is making a an octagonal room. That's very sharp and clean. Oh! You're not getting... Allison to the rescue! Allison to the rescue. Alright, stream will catch up here. Oh man, sorry about that, guys. But we'll be back in it here. And let me kind of go back over what I was talking about before with some of this stuff. Sorry about that. Alright, so we're going to kind of start to design these interior life support pods. So the first thing I always start with is I want to write down, what do I need from this place in terms of function? What does this place have to be able to do? What does it have to look a specific way? Like things like that. I know in terms of function, it needs the food and water. There needs sleeping quarters. They need some type of way to keep up with hygiene. To go to the restroom. I want the cryo chamber room to be adjacent to it, and then there's some type of ominous computer setup that's got a little mystery to it. So I want to keep all those things in mind, even the fact that like I want this workstation to have a little bit of mystery to it. That'll actually then bleed into the way I light this place. So I might have I might kind of keep in my lighting design in mind in regards to the story. So with that, I can go top-down, mood lighting, and then jump into 3D design. And I'm working kind of back and forth between all of these as we go. But I'll start with the top-down, which is what we'll do right here. So this is the cryo room that I'm shaping out right here. We'll just lasso some of this away. Well, that was a mess. Oops. There we go. Cool. So we got this is the kind of the main cryo room, so I'm going to shrink this guy down because our canvas is kind of big right there. And I'm essentially going to make little puzzle pieces for myself and just fit them together to try to get the shape of this place. So cryo. I'll make a new layer. And maybe I'll start a little looser here. We'll have the cryo room connects to something. Like maybe a mini hallway. And then gonna get a little looser here. And I want some type of space out here. I want some type of like I want the exit door to be very noticeable, very apparent. I want to keep that in mind for my design as well, because the idea of getting out of these places, the idea of escaping from these pods, is kind of another important story point. So I have kind of this main room. I have the exit. which is kind of locked off. And then I have, let me say, a zone here, which is the kind of sleeping quarters. If a zone going around there, which is there's kitchen, things like that, and then another zone here, which is bathroom. And this is just a start. We can change all of this as we kind of go along. I'm just gonna shorten that up. Sleep, eat. You need to be able to exercise too. So maybe there's a little portion over here that's like some type of fitness thing. And then all of these are kind of connected. And I want these to feel I want this interior to feel futuristic, but have some kind of like NASA inspiration. So I don't want everything to be super open. Maybe this center room will be a little bit more open, but I want these side places to feel more like almost like compartments on the International Space Station or something like alluding to that. And then I think at the center here we'll have the workstation. This is cryo. This is the exit. What's the reason for us being able to hear this podcast? Like Lauren's got the recordings and the sessions thing. Is Elon going to record his thoughts? I know what you're talking. I know what you're asking. There will be a mechanism through which we are hearing most of this, but it's less of a big deal in this podcast. It is kind of via a particular character, but it's not immediately apparent. And I think I probably just confuse you more than answer the question, but okay, so you can start to see like some kind of interesting shape language happening here. You have kind of the cryo room is almost isolated, which I kind of like that feeling of. Maybe we can almost this almost reminds me of like an atom structure of some type, which is kind of cool. You have like if I sketch this out real quick. No. Maybe make that more of an arc. And I'm just kind of exploring what some interesting shapes could be. Can I find meaning in those shapes to again drive any part of the story forward more? The more things I can exploit to kind of hit the story points from different angles is really helpful. So like even something like this, a shape like this, I could then use that as some type of design element in different places, maybe on a door or maybe on some type of interface or even beams and things like that, or some type of icon on the chest. And you wouldn't even really know too much about what it is, except that it goes along with this architecture. It's a really like that's much more of a subconscious thing that most people wouldn't even connect, but there is that connection there to be made, you know, and that's one way that I can bring a little bit of unity to the designs, so that everything feels like it's either from the same world or made by the same company or things like that. So I'm going to back out of this to access my layers, and I've got this cryo layer here. I'm going to duplicate this guy because I want to reuse that hexagonal shape over and over and over again. So I got the cryo copy. I'm gonna see if hexagons across the board kind of make a good start for things. It's not good to have everything exactly the same, but it might at least give us a good base to start with. Gonna lower the opacity on kind of the messy channels. I want this guy to be about the same size as cryo. Put that one there. Duplicate it again. And get him down there. And I'm just using that initial messy drawing just as a reference. I don't have to follow it exactly. I don't have to be worried things aren't perfect. Ooh, something like this could be cool. And then I can kind of use the outside of that. Oh, did I lose my... I did. Oh well, I'll bring it back. I lost the main room, but we can quickly recover that. Just delete this layer mask. And shrink them back down a little bit. And we're back in business. Then we have the question of how do we want this shape to run? I like how this connects, how kind of the wall there and this line form one continuous line. And now I want this line to match up with this one. Got that in place. But I don't like how thin this is. So I'm going to go ahead and drop down, say right here. And maybe right here. I still don't think this is going to be enough, but we'll try it first. Maybe halfway. And now I can just clean up what I don't want. And now I've made that room a lot thicker, which is exactly what I wanted. Okay, and then I want some type of, let's find that center room again. Let's duplicate that one and shrink it. And let's offset it. Let's put a little bit of asymmetry in here. And you can see we're starting to get that very, like, I think, was it Allison who said, looked almost like a molecule. Yeah. So you'll see we're starting to get that kind of, that flavor of design language, which is exactly what I want. I want it to feel kind of alluding to science. And this is one of the ways we can try to accomplish that. I'm going to bump this cryo room a little bit closer. I don't like kind of how far away it's sitting. And then just to satisfy my own thought here, I'm starting to think about kind of what the outside shape of this is going to be. Like if you just had one of these sitting on top of the ground, what would it look like? And if you think of kind of what a hexagonal prism looks like, that's almost what I'm thinking might work. So I can duplicate this and just bring it all the way out so that it's the outside of the structure, if you will. So this is kind of the perimeter of the structure. And then this kind of space over here can be, well, actually, this side and this side here can be stuff like interior mechanics of the place, like electrics, plumbing, things to make this cryo room actually run properly, things like that. And then maybe this can be the exit. And then once I'm done with the first part of this phase, what would you guys rather see? Do you want me to keep working in Photoshop and doing some painting? Or would you rather see some of the 3D work and how we might actually start building this out in 3D? So let me know what you would rather see, and I'll go off of that. Are there going to be aliens? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know about that one. I don't know. All right, 3D work it is. So as soon as I kind of feel like I've got a good idea of the kind of top down of this, I'll get the 3D open. And I think that this is working for me. So I'm going to take all these layers and flatten them down. This is definitely working for me, at least for a first pass. And this is our very rough blueprint. So we'll label this real quick just so we can keep track of things. I'll pick a different color. Let's go blue. Blue is a great color, right? So that's the exit. This is the kind of workstation. Cryo. Sleeping quarters. This is hygiene, right? So restroom, shower, which the shower won't be like, oh, it's a regular shower. It'll be more like, okay, how do they wash themselves in space, or how would they wash themselves in a colony on Mars, like those types of things. And then this will be food, water, something for exercise. You need that. And I think that'll do it. So with that done, as I kind of keep talking here, I'll, on my other screen, start to bring up the 3D program. And that we're going to be working in Maya, which is one of the big 3D programs. There's Maya, there's 3ds Max, there's something called Modo, SketchUp, bunch of different things. But this is the one that I have the most experience with, so bring this guy on in. Boom. And this is what it looks like right off the bat. So I'm actually going to put my Photoshop over on the other screen so I can see it. And now I can bring in some shapes to start. So go with, trying to think of what's going to be best to start with. We can start with probably a square. Yeah, let's give ourselves a square, and let's kind of make that first a base kind of octagonal prism. This is in centimeters, so how so I have to do this a lot. How tall is a person? What, like, so if I'm 6 foot, 6 feet to centimeters, 182 centimeters. It's like the height of a room would have to be what, like 10? So we'll say 300 centimeters for kind of a height of a room. So 100, this guy will get really big. And now we got to make the, whoops. I'm going to lay down some lines to turn this square, this cube, into a hexagonal prism. So just making a bunch of lines here. And going across. Cool, so we've just got 4x4 grid on each side. Now I can actually go into, say, some of these and start to think about how I'm going to flatten this out. You know what? I think I need another one. What kind of work is done at the workstation? Well, that has to do with what this place actually is and what its purpose is. So, and that's very that's very much into the mystery of this place. So we don't quite know yet too much about the workstations. I think I gotta split this again. Okay. We can slide these guys on over. So what would this look like if we delete that? Creates kind of that chamfer right there. I think that might work. So the interesting thing about 3D is you can make a couple of like basic building blocks to use, and then you can reuse them and reuse them and reuse them in many different types of ways. So you almost like build your own Lego set, and then you're playing with Legos that you just built. So it can be very fun that way. I was definitely a Lego kid. And second to last corner. Last corner. And then we'll just have to fix the proportions. Whoops. Okay, so we can actually get rid of a lot of these edges now. Clean this puppy up. Whoops. Uh-oh. Is something starting to happen here? No. It's... Oh, we lost that right there. How'd that happen? No. Okay, something happened right here. hold on. 300. I think there might be a faster way to do this. Yep. And if we just delete these vertexes on the corner. And you just need these middle ones. That was my mistake before. I thought I needed like a whole bunch of lines. I only needed some of them. But luckily it's fast enough just to mop up real quick. Let's check one corner before we move on. And that is not good. You want that guy to be up and over. This is when we look at reference, because hexagonal prism. Because I'm clearly not doing it too well. Okay, so they built it out like that. I was thinking more like not just an extrusion, but more like this. Hexagons in 3D. So they have hexagons and squares all lined up. So let's do it like that. Yeah, getting good lines in digital art takes some practice. It takes some practice in like drawing from your shoulder instead of just from your wrist and your fingers. Let's drop this guy down to 1 by 1. And this plane needs to be scaled up a lot. Grab that one, that one, that one, and that one. Scale them in. Finally, here we go. This is what we wanted. Okay, so we've got that building block. And now we've got a square, which will be another good building block. And that can just be, let's do 2 by 2. Oh, not 3, 2. We'll have that be 100. So now we've got these little building blocks, which we can actually use to build that prism. But we'll just start with the floor plan. I think that'll be easier for me personally to wrap my head around. So if you think of what we had before, okay, that kind of plane that I just made is each of these shapes, right? So I can go ahead and start putting this into place. If I think of, okay, this is the cryo room. Then I can just duplicate that on over. I know that I want, let's try to make this twice as big. So it's at 200. Let's set it to 400. And that might be a good size for kind of that center room. Right, okay. Duplicate him off. You know, I'm going to try something here. I want to take these ones, delete them, and just move these ones over. No, that looks terrible. Oh, but then if I delete these, this is a more, this might be more uniform shape. Because I want this, this edge and this edge to be the same distance. So now I can spread these out a little bit to try to make that happen. Oh, I gotta combine all this. I know a lot of this visually won't make sense, so just go ahead and if you've got questions on what I'm even doing at certain points, just make sure to shout them out, because I know that this part can be 3D can be kind of confusing when you haven't had exposure to it. And, you know, I think that's more what I want. So let's kind of work our way back. But I also like that shape, so maybe I'll keep some of that shape and I'll just play around with all this. Let's make this bigger to match there. And then let's make it twice as big. Yeah, that feels good. Want these to be about the same size, but now there's slight variation, because now if we look at these two shapes, they speak to the same shape language. They have the same feel to them, but they're slightly different. You know, the proportions of the sides are different on each of them. So we can have some variation while still making sure that the feel is maintained. That's kind of cool. How it, like, these lines kind of lead into there. Let's do the same thing over here if we can. Oh, and maybe I want to rotate this. And get it back more. Boom. So now you see we're literally just building that same design, that same floor plan, just in 3D. So it's really cool that, like, we can just directly translate everything back over from the 2D into the 3D design. I'm going to take a bunch of this stuff and just delete it out. Ooh, that's getting messy real quick. Okay, I'm gonna lower this one below these guys. Oh, that didn't help at all. I think this will give me what I'm looking for. So what are we doing with the hexagon? We're gonna end up using them. Right now I'm doing the long part of that hallway. So I'm working on getting kind of this shape in there, and then we'll start to build up. Once we have that kind of base down there, then we'll start to build everything up, and it'll become actually 3D, and we'll actually be able to start throwing some basic lighting in there and seeing, again, kind of what this place might feel like spatially. Oops. Okay. I'm trying to figure out. I like how this is starting to connect over here. In fact, I kind of want to do another split here. Because now I kind of have what my separation will look like. So these go. This runs straight into this room. Like that. Amanda G, if you don't mind me asking, what made you decide to put a visual aspect in Tarnum? Because I love visuals. If I had a choice of what I could do, I want to be a film director in my life, and this is a great way for me to be able to tell a story more immediately, and yet still be pairing that with visual images, which is really important to me. I really like how you can convey information visually opposed to like just through dialogue, and yet I also love that aspect of it, which is why a podcast is very, very appealing. Okay, what am I gonna do with this over here? Not quite certain yet. What I could do is pull this out a little. And then pull this out a little. Now those are kind of uniform. I want this to line up, but I'm having trouble with finding how I'm going to be able to do that. I think I need this, like all these to back up with it. Like that. And then I could just change the reinforcing on there to even out the angle. Cool. I like that shape, and that'll kind of mimic what this negative shape will be over here. And those will probably be some sort of steps or going over like the threshold of some sort of door or something into these other rooms. I actually kind of like how that feels almost like out of place, but not completely. It's kind of cool. What if I did this? Whoops. And then made this connect. Whoops. 3D can be very finicky sometimes. This is starting to feel kind of cool. And now what I can do is I can, let's take this guy, duplicate him, lower him down just a little bit, and make him real big. And I'll change him to like a black color. Assign new material. And we'll make that kind of darker so we can see everything. Now we can see if this is our perimeter, how our objects are kind of filling up the space. So if we look at it real quick, we have over here is going to be the cryo room. We have that center place where kind of the workstation is going to be. We have the exit up here. We have the sleeping quarters over here. Food, water, exercise, and then kind of hygiene down here. And then these negative spaces right here and here, those will be like more machinery type stuff. So I'm going to make this so I can't select it. But I can select all these other ones, which is great. I'm going to take this little strip that's representing kind of like a hallway of some sort. A short little corridor. And get that here. Then extend that to the exit. And we've got a lovely blueprint. Lower this once more. Cool. So let's now try to think about how we're going to build up. And this is where I want to start thinking about what does the side of this place kind of look like. If I shrink, this is now going back into Photoshop. If I shrink our original blueprint that we were working with down, then I can grab my color. And now I'm thinking about this from like a side view. What does the wall look like? So, our normal walls would look like that. I'm standing here, whoop-de-doo. Um, but this kind of 90-degree angle is not something I want to really have too much of. If we look at like things that are NASA-ish, they always have some type of like curve or something, from the references that I've been seeing, like out of the International Space Station, things like that. So we want to think about how can we change the silhouette of this thing. One thing I might look at, let me pull up Google real quick, is empty airplane. Kind of like how the fuselages of airplanes curve. I kind of like that aesthetic. It has like these little grates down here. That's kind of cool. Let's look at this one. I like that overhead too. It makes the place feel a little more claustrophobic, just a little bit, which is a good thing. I like that. I want this place to feel like you're enclosed, except I want the workstation to contrast that. I want this center place to feel a little bit wider and open. So they had these kind of like big... In airplanes, you just have those shapes that are the luggage compartments, right? I like how intrusive those are. Not in real life, just in terms of the shapes. In real life, they need to add way more space. Am I right? Go back, look at more reference. How can I make these grates fit? Maybe instead of doing something concave like that, I can do something convex. And then these are actually grates of some sort. The trouble is this whole thing actually needs to be kind of bent forward. And then here's a fun Photoshop tool, is the warp tool. If you're in free transform mode, which is just Control T to kind of get in this box mode where I can maneuver a little bit. If I right click and go to warp, I can do some fun stuff, just messing with the shape of it. And it feels really organic. How do I stay motivated to do this? You guys? When I see people yelling at me on like, hey, where's the podcast you've been working on? I'm like, yeah, you're right. I need to get it out. I need to get it out. So, yeah, really, you guys. But see how that gave us like a really nice curve. It might be cool to contrast the inside shape with the outside shape, because I want the outside shape to feel like literally this shape here, this hexagon. How many sides? 1, 2, 3, 4. Octagon. That's right. We know shapes. Anyway. So if this is kind of the floor point, I want it to feel... Whoops. Lost my brush. There we go. Something like an octagon, right? And this is my goal. And this is also just a thought. Since I haven't designed it yet, I haven't actually seen it, this might end up being completely crappy in the end, right? And we got to know that going into it, that this might just simply not work. And that's just kind of par for the course. but something like this, maybe a little thinner to make the proportions match up. Because I have this visual in my head, right, of you come across these things are underground on Mars, right? And you come across this kind of natural cavern where the ground is very split, and we're seeing a wall of these pods just lined up together, almost like a beehive or a honeycomb, and and we get the sense of the enormity of this place and of what's going on in this place just from the visual of seeing all those pods lined up in this giant cavern. So that's probably that one's been in my head for a while, that image. So I think that'll probably end up being a painting for one of the episodes. So let's take this and make it a little bit more extreme of a curve. This vent's really bothering me. And then some type of support. So how do we... Let's look up some... Let's go to the International Space Station, shall we? Back to Google. International Space Station. Images. Oh, interior. We want the inside. Here we go. This kind of idea of... see how this one's like really messy and really busy? We want some of this detail. We want some of this high frequency detail, like a bunch of switches and knobs in place. But you look at something more like this, where you have these panels, and these panels still have detail on them, but they allow your eye to rest a lot more. This is more the aesthetic that I want to shoot for. So maybe the fact that they're more chamfered will help me out with these vents at the bottom. Yeah, pretty much, Allison. Pretty much. And I did see the character question, by the way, Change Queen. It's just, well, I'll keep those cards a little closer to my chest for the time being. Don't worry. We will learn about some of the characters as we go on. It won't just be a sudden drop and of the episodes, and it's like, ta-da, here are all the characters. Just trying to find some interesting lines and some interesting like relations of certain lines. It's like that could be kind of cool, where instead of that big curve, we just get the hint of that little curve up top. How dare I? I'm evil like that. Just trying to like feel out how much space is up top, because I don't want... I don't want too much going on up top. Maybe like some type of artificial lighting source up here. And now that we've done half of it, we can be nifty and just cheat it on over by copying it, flipping it horizontal, and shoving it on over to the other side. So you can imagine this is like a cross section of what might be going on, and then that'll be going on in 360 around the whole pod. I'm Batman. Okay, this is weird. This top thing is just weird. Like I say, I really don't know what's going on over there. So let's, since I'm hitting a little bit of a block on these design of these pillar things, let's jump back into 3D. And start extruding upwards with this stuff. So I think the low point is going to be this area. So the cryo room, the main room, and the exit, and then kind of a little bit higher, not like a floor higher, but maybe like a couple steps, like 3-4 steps up, are the kind of hospitality wings, if we want to call them that, for now. Grab these edges and sneak them on over a little. And I think I've got to do something about this guy. Making some edges to give myself some room to play. That one can line up there. There we go. Okay, let's try to give some thickness to some of this stuff. Except not you. Whoops. There we go. And oh, you know what? I want to do them separately. These will be easier that way. So I want to grab these ones, extrude up a little bit, give it a little bit of that thickness, then grab these ones, because I want to bring these up even farther. So now we'll get a sense of that that difference. And I need a scale reference in here to know how tall my people are. So I'll pump in here. What do we say? So the centimeters. So 180 centimeters is about 6 foot. But I can shorten him up. So you'll see, we need to scale this entire thing up because this rectangle right here, that's my height pretty much, or a little bit, just a tad shorter than me. So we need to bring this entire thing up, and we'll do that like this. I'm gonna put him over in the cryo room so I have a better idea. So the cryo room should be pretty small. If we take a look at that that one shot I did, where's this guy at? Tarnum, art, design, nope. Frames, nope. Yeah, okay. Because if we look at this, that behind him is the cryo room. And the room he's in now is, like he's actually in, is that tiny little hallway. So, he's kind of like right there. And he just came out of the cryo room. So keeping that in mind with the scale, that's about right. Yeah, that's about right. So then we'll have stairs going up to each of these kind of 3 components. And then that center will be the workstation. Do you know what? I'm actually going to do this, where I duplicate this guy, save him below for a minute, because I'm going to destroy this guy just a little in the center. Patch him up. Doing the surgery on the shape. Alright, because now we can take that one underneath, bring it back up, and scale it in. And that'll become our workstation kind of area. So it'll be good. The lowest point will be the workstation itself, which kind of feels ominous. You want to, like, if you're going to go and sit down at this desk in here, it feels like you're like kind of almost going into an arena. Like everything else is up above you. So that might play really well to our advantage. And now what I'll do is I'll get some basic, I'll find like a shot here, and we'll actually render it out, and then we'll jump into Photoshop and paint over it for the final part of this live stream. And that way, hopefully, we can start to get the feeling of this place a little bit better. And I want the workstation to face the exit. So he sees the workstation for the first time and goes to stand in front of it. And we can have a nice, cool shot from the kind of hygiene room, the restroom, so we see some of the stuff in there. Then we get this big archway which kind of frames it. I can turn on a frame here. Let's go. Just upping my resolution. Where are you at? Let's go HD. Pop a light in here real quick. Create a light. Light. I want rectangular light. And this will help me, again, kind of give me that initial mood read for free, which will be really good. Oh, accept the wrong camera. Perspective. Cool, so we can get a very basic lighting here, and I can manipulate this and view it live. So we have that light above. Just trying to think a little bit. Let's take this guy and duplicate him. Oh, that's cool. So that's kind of the feeling of the screens. Cool. So we're going to render this out, and then we're going to go paint all over it in Photoshop. And I'll do some file management over here on my other screen. Tarnum, art, design, pod. Oh no, it rendered the... Of course it rendered the wrong thing. Rendered the wrong angle. We need that angle.
The workstation, an arena where you fight emotional battles.
I like the way you phrased that. And believe, I know I'm being very coy about the plot of it and all that, but it's just because we're quite a ways away from starting to get into more of the characters and all that type of stuff. But trust me, it is coming. Just saving this guy. I should be able to open up Photoshop now. Open up design, pod, 3D reference. Came in with some transparency, so I'll just fill that. And then the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to blow this guy up resolution-wise. Canvas size, or I guess image size. And we're going to go to, what's Ultra HD off the top of my head? 4K resolution, 2.35. So 4096 by 2304. And that just made everything a lot bigger. So when I paint, I'll be painting in a higher resolution here. So I'm gonna combine those. And I can start painting on top. So I'm just going to straight up try to get a feel in here as fast as possible. And I'm going to do that by mainly putting in the lighting. And this is obviously really intense, so I'm going to have to knock this back. But I can do that really easily with the opacity. And actually, I'm going to change the layer type to screen. Just the math of it mimics light a little bit better. Then I'm going to add a mask and start to shape that light so I get more of a ray. A little too sharp for me. So I'm going to come back. This is why I'm doing this on a mask. It's very non-destructive. And I'm just working in black and white right now. Wait, you relate to Elon's arms? How so? And I'm just gonna start color picking and trying to drop in some shapes. I know that this doorway, I don't want, I'm not gonna be able to see a lot of the stuff over here. Because there's gonna be this doorway into the kind of hygiene area. Make this brush a little bigger. So I'm probably not even gonna see most of what's over there. It's early stage, like being nice and neat, it really doesn't matter all that much. We just need that. We need to figure out the main shapes as fast as possible. So it's a lot of just scribble, 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 get it down. Okay, we got some different types of lights hitting. Move this over just a little bit, and that's as easy as just lassoing it, control T'ing to get it into select mode, and just putting it where you need it. Because I want this shot to be this one to feel very symmetrical. It's kind of an ominous type of shot. And also, I don't want this light to actually be visible in the end, but I want the light rays to be visible. So I want some sort of overhang here, right? And this is going to help create that sense of depth. There's something above where we can actually see. If we kind of lead the eye beyond what the eye can actually see, then we start to make our viewer say, oh, like, what's up there? And they start thinking about it. And the act of thinking about what's up there makes this place feel bigger and feel more real. This is also what I wanted to talk about in regards to the feeling of it being cavernous, the main room. The side rooms I want to feel a little more claustrophobic, but I want a big distinction as we get to the middle room. And if I look at this, the light is about the point at which the top of this place is, but I don't know if maybe I want a lot of things like hanging down, like wires and things like that. I'm not quite sure yet. That feels very industrial. Maybe I can make some patterns to reuse. So I just kind of built that element real quick. And now I can copy and paste it around a little bit. These can become supports of types of some sort. This is another reason I love working digitally, is you can just reuse and reuse things and get a lot of bang for your buck, so to speak. And just clean that up. Maybe those two beams, maybe they're a little bit too intense. Oh, whoops, what did I do? What did I do there? There we go. Oh, whoops, sorry about that. Just knocked my mic. And I'm going to steal one more. Bring it up. Actually going to duplicate it to make it a little bit longer. So now that's all one. I'm going to curve this around. So I'm going to use that warp trick again. The warp. Get that to bend down. Get that to bend down. Get that to go up a little bit. That to go up a little bit. Ah, that didn't quite work for me. So I'm going to use one of the presets on warp. Go to warp and go up at the top. There's custom there. That's actually a drop-down menu, and I can I can arc it. I can arch it. I think arching is what I want to go for here. And this is just trying to give me that perspective that I want, as though this is almost wrapping around the that center part. And again, just adding that kind of detail in there really quickly to give that feel. Um, I want to take another look at the International Space Station again. They're kind of looking at the paneling. Their handles and stuff, obviously, because they're in space. So do I want that? I'm not quite sure. I really like the lighting there. But what else can I do to integrate into these panels? Maybe instead of making them round, they're actually quite angular. So just start painting again. So like really clear divisions in these panels. Like boom, there's one, but then here's one. And again, this is just us fleshing out the idea, because once we put this into 3D, we'll actually get all this stuff for free. All this lighting and everything. And then in the end, we'll use photo textures to kind of get that final polish. We'll do a 3D render, hopefully, and then get that final polish off of just photo textures and cleaning up in Photoshop. Okay, we got some very basic stuff in there. Let's go scribble around this computer area for a little bit. Looking at the time, it's 7:38, so hopefully we'll be able to get a good lighting image out of this. I actually kind of like using these as the base for the screens. I want the screens to be a little bit longer, though. And I almost want them to like, this middle one should probably be a little bit more. Okay, cool. And then there's going to be a table of some sort. So all this bright light is going to reflect onto some sort of table. Although he's standing up here, because this that we figured out, this height is 180 centimeters, which is approximately 6 feet, right? So the desk itself is probably only going to be like, what, down there? So these screens here are actually up pretty high. So maybe there's kind of some supplemental stuff. I don't like that. But there's got to be something. There's something on the sides, something that brings our focus back to the middle. Like the stuff I'm putting down right now, I don't know what it is. All I know is, where is it pointing? And the answer is, I want it to point back at the middle guy. So I'm going to start carving in a little bit of some indications of an actual body here, so we can actually work with something resembling a human other than just a square. And my proportions aren't going to be perfect, but not to worry. Hey, Megan, how's it going? Welcome to the stream. Glad you can make it. All right. So that's cool. At least we can see, we can imagine kind of like that person there now. Moving on to the rest of the desk, we're going to start putting in some type of supports here. And then some type of chair, probably, right? So here's where we can start introducing some asymmetry into the shot. We're going to have some type of asymmetry over here because we've got this, the walkway up into that other room over there, right? So I'm going to use the chair as as an opportunity to kind of offset that by having some element over here. And just scribbling that in, I started with the highlights just to block those in, and now scribbling in the kind of darkness. And you can see it doesn't really look much like a chair, but it doesn't matter because I pull out, I get the gist, right? This right now, this size of a thing is what we're playing for. We want this to feel like, oh, that's a cool final image. And then kind of going to the background. Actually, I'm going to flesh this out just a tiny bit more. And we got to think about the back of this room. If we look at kind of where the perspective's going, we have lines going there. We have lines going there. So the center vanishing point is like right at his head, which for this type of perfectly symmetrical, it's all about this guy in the middle shot, that's actually really nice. And what we can then do to exemplify that is the shapes that are going to be surrounding that. So we're going to have a curve going down because of the perspective and the fact that this is kind of a circular room. It's truly hexagonal like we were doing in the 3D and stuff, but for now I'm just going to draw it with that curve. And this gives us interesting information because it gives us this point right here, which is another good focus point, where we can have some type of thing, maybe the door out, the closed door out. So the idea is, okay, he's in this trapped place with this workstation. He wants to get out, and the only thing that's actually the only way out is through this door. Which, let me take a quick look at this keyframe door. And we can introduce our iconic T back into it. That's that's fairly ominous, right? Hold on, I gotta catch up with chat here. What's with all the beam talk? This is so hysterical. You'd be Mark. You don't want to be Damien. Come on, Damien's so great and like loving. Do you find it easier to draw in color or in grayscale, black and white? I definitely think black and white is easier just because it's one less thing to think about, right? And in fact, when I'm trying to add color into something, I'm generally actually just stealing the colors directly from some type of reference, or I'll take some type of image that is close to what I'm looking for. I'll manipulate the colors and then use that as kind of a color picker for then going in and doing my color paintings. And that's how I do things like, let's see what's behind here. Like this Pennywise picture, for instance. This is my current background. This is, if you saw the movie It, this is Pennywise from It. And this, the way I did this, was I just had the still frame from the actual movie side by side with a blank canvas, and I just color picked from the still frame. Excuse me. Color picked from the still frame and just painted it straight onto the canvas until I got something that was pretty close to what the original frame was. But especially in this part of the design phase, I just want to simplify the thinking so that my brain's only trying to put all of its energy into one thing at once, which right now is the architecture, what the supports of this place, things like that. And obviously the actual visual design of the shot. Whoops. And now let me find this guy once more. We'll warp him. Get that arc going. So far, they are pretty ominous. It's the designs, rather, Allison. I want, especially at the beginning of the show, I want things to feel very dark and very foreboding and just not welcoming. And as I move along, I want to, as like characters go through certain journeys and the story progresses, I want to start introducing more. Uh, I want things to get a little more brighter as they go along. Oh, you know what? I can put in those bottom panels. It's kind of vents. Boom, boom. I think I've realized I say boom so much when I draw and paint. It's like, all right, I got to do this. Boom, got it, done. On the next thing, got to do this. Boom. I love saying boom. I don't know why. Does Tarnum have a tagline yet? No, it does not yet. That'll kind of come as when I reveal the main kind of story pitch. Well, not pitch, but when I reveal the kind of story teaser, I kind of have that art teaser out there, which has the extremely vague dialogue in there, but just to give you a sense of the tone of the show. Um, I'll probably have another kind of release once I have the first one done, like fully done. Um, I want to make sure I get the first one done just so everything goes smoothly and that's all good, and then I'll start worrying about the rest of the entire first season. But yeah, kind of more of what the story's about will come. It will come. Fleshing that guy out a little bit more. All right, I'm gonna take one big. This is called a vignette, by the way. If you don't know, when you kind of darken the corners of an image, um, it's just a good thing to kind of use to help focus the eye. So like that compared to that, you can see it punches in on that center point so much more. Okay, that's cool. And now we'll add back that bright spot, kind of going in through some of here. And get the highlight, the big glow. Whoops, a little bit too big. Then with a mask, erase some of that away. I think these panels will have some type of scribble, 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 scribble. That is, yep, you're totally right. I do say that a lot, don't I? I feel like the scribble, scribble, scribble comes in a lot in like thumbnailing when it's just like keep the pen moving, keep the pen moving. You can do it. Do more Damien impressions. What is Damien saying? Adjusting some of these colors because I'm gonna now do the glow on the computer monitors. I want these to, don't want it to be completely pure white by the time I'm done with it. And a little more darkness under there. That's cool. So the T is almost just like hiding. So the main focus is the lights, but then when you look closely, you see that ominous T showing up again. And I think I'll be able to, once I get into the fine details, I'll be able to like really cram in a lot of small like cool little illusions to the greater story with that T. And, you know, before we call it a night, let's go ahead. I'll save this off. But let's go ahead and add some color, shall we? Just see what we come up with. So just for reference, by the way, that's what we started with. Just our kind of spatial awareness. And then you can turn it into, boom. Pretty quickly. So colors. Let's start with a base color. We'll just do some base. And let's kind of make it gel with this one if we can. So that blue. Ooh, that's kind of ominous. And then we're going to stack a couple of these to get a base. And then we'll use masks to separate them out. So now we're getting that color for the computer. But we'll go into this mask, black it out, and then just paint in with our brush. And we're getting those subtleties of light. And anywhere the light's really hitting, we want to just put in a little bit of that. Because realistic colors is realistic variation in colors. And that's really the big trick. So I can go and say do a color balance and play around with some of these. Maybe the shadows will get a little darker and bluer. Damien is probably the master of sounding equal parts scary and ridiculous at the same time. Need some greens in here, I feel like. And then we need to take the saturation of this guy way down. Bring it more into a realistic place. Levels. Okay, this will be interesting. Having something that's a little more white. And then we can choose the exact spots that that's going down. Ooh, and then I can add little... I don't know if I like that or not, but... Yeah, I don't like that. Maybe just along the T. Yeah, it's kind of cool. I think what I'll do... Charlie, what's your opinion on musicals, and what is your favorite? I love musicals. I don't see enough musicals. I've been wanting to see the Book of Mormon for like 5 years, and it was in Los Angeles this past summer, and I didn't go, and I was so upset at myself for not making myself go. But I really like a lot of them, to be honest. Yeah. Anything from Wicked to even Kinky Boots was fun. There are a lot of them, but a lot of the more recent ones I haven't seen. Like I haven't seen Hamilton, which I really want to see. Yeah. Okay, this box is bothering me down here. I just want to like scribble that away. And I'm going overtime a little bit here, but I'll stop when I feel like it feels in a good place. I'm gonna warp this out. Fisheye. Yeah, that's what I wanted. Okay. and we'll mess with where this is at a little bit. That's looking somewhat good. Or somewhat in the right idea. Eh, not sure I'm liking it. Yeah. I think just the amount of how dark those are is, these sides are, is bothering me. That's better. And I think that will do it. Let me take a quick look at that would be awesome. Squad trip, Book of Mormon. Dope. Trying to see, I think that I can actually bring this guy in, which will help with the composition a little bit, just with that corner. Do it like that. Yeah, that even just to being a little subtle like that helps keep the eye in. When it's like this, we have these tangents running right here. Let me show you this. This is actually pretty interesting kind of composition theory. Art nerd alert. But we have this line going here and this line going here. Just like over here as well. And when that happens, it just creates a really sharp spot for your eye, which is just not very pleasant. So by adding that little bit of turn, it helps our eye. It doesn't solve the problem yet, though, because what we really need, to be honest, is... Let me go ahead and make this guy real quick. I'm going to make another one of those supports. Support done. You gotta celebrate the little things. And then I will change that perspective a little bit. Whoops. Deleted the wrong one. Delete that one. Group these guys up. The lines are my friends. The lines are my friends. The lines, the shapes, they're my buds. You know? And that's why, and you can't get married to them though. You gotta, you gotta be ready to let them go at any minute. Oh yeah, see how that helps with composition. So let's take a look at what just happened there, because we started with this. We had those straight lines that we were talking about. Um,
Tarnum tagline. There is no tagline. There'll be a little tagline thing.
but I added that little turn to help start solving the composition. It doesn't completely help it though, because it doesn't loop your eyes back to any focal point. But you add in those supports, and now suddenly it does. It brings your eyes back to this big center light in the middle, which in turn, since the light is shining down on our main character, it brings everything back to the center of the image. So it's kind of cool. When you look at the image first, your first read is I look at the center, and then your eyes might wander. And because of this natural frame we've created, it doesn't go too much outside of there. Sometimes we think, okay, what's outside the frame that way, but it always kind of comes back. And even on the outside parts, we still have work to do because we need some shapes that draw us back that way, right? Or down, right? But that controls the edge of this frame, because once we hit this border of the natural frame we've created of the doorway, we start hitting these rails, or that rail, or that one, or that one, or this support, or that support. So the only place we can really get to from here is back up to there, right? And since this is shining the light directly down, you can kind of see how this is what we call shape flow, and this is what we're thinking of when we're designing compositions. And you see the trouble spot here is your eye can get led out here. How does it get led back? So these two are the big question marks right now in the image. But everything else is working pretty well. I'm really liking where we got with this one, because I can already start to see repeating shapes. That's the shape flow. Like the repeating structures like these that I can all build inside of 3D and then reuse and reuse and reuse. That way I can make really high quality assets, but not as many of them, and just kind of abuse them over and over again, so that I can get closer to a final painting in the 3D stage, and it'll save me a lot of time when I go into the 2D stage. So this whole process of design and concept art, it's very much going back and forth between the 2D side of things and the 3D side of things. 2D is always going to be faster, especially in making bigger changes, but 3D is always going to be more accurate and be able to give you a better final product, or especially more accurate in terms of getting the perspective right. Because perspective freehand in 2D, if you've ever done a bunch of perspective drawings, you know it takes time. It just takes a lot of time and a lot of mental energy. But I think we are rounding down, gang, and I'm glad it looks like we got a few more viewers this time around. I'm glad to see the all the old faces. Please keep coming back. We're gonna keep doing these guys on Sundays now. I had a schedule change. I started a new job last week, and it has a little bit of a schedule change, so I can't do the Tuesday Thursdays anymore. But we're going to drop it down to that one live stream a week on Sundays, and hopefully that'll give me more time to prepare during the week, so that I can get you guys some good kind of thought through design work, kind of like today, where we started at the beginning, but we had a direct plan, and we got to this final mood painting in the course of uh, about 2 hours, right? Which is pretty good for that amount of time. And we're kind of seeing similar feelings going across. This one I might have to darken down a little bit. It's a little bit too vibrant, but yeah, yeah. I know it's a little sad going down to the one live stream a week, but that'll also let me be able to progress on the production faster and hopefully get this out to you as fast as get this podcast out to you all as fast as I can. That is my goal. But good work today, guys. Pretty proud of it. So I will see you next week on Sunday at 6, and I hope you can join me then. And who was the one that came in late? Was it Megan or anyway, I was gonna jokingly scold you, but yeah. All right. I'll see you guys next time. Take care.